Let's see what we see. Let me know. Checking before we go live. Hey, there we go. I think it's working. Are we seeing it on YouTube now? There we go. Okay, cool. Yay, it's working. And there we go. 1 second. Hey, look at that. Now, there we go. Ooh, that's loud, but we'll be all right. Pardon me while this is it's a little clunky right now. Apologies, and I'm a little green because the lighting is such that I'm not quite sure how things get. There you go. I have a bit of crawling ants because of the intensity of the light. Hold on, don't stare. Try not to stare. Eyes up. Eyes up. Let's turn this reddish and lower it a little. Hopefully that'll help a little with the, I don't know. Hi everybody. Okay, audio's pretty good. We're rock and rolling. It's the morning show. I'm limping by as best I can. Let's see. Can I get the people up here? Do I see that? That's not quite it. That's not the window that should be up. I don't know why that went that way, but we will fix that in just 1 second. For some reason in the upload of my my setup, just decided it couldn't find any of the files this morning. I'm glad you like that background. It's pretty nice. It's one of my, in case I can't have a blue screen where I am, it's the set I use for that. And I have one rudimentarily today, but regardless, let me go to here. And I don't know why this is all of a sudden, oh, maybe because that's blacked out in there. And then we go to, what did I do? Oh, yes, that's why. And I'm going to add something real quick. I'm just making some stuff up. What's happening, people? All right. Let's see. Display capture is what I need. Okay, I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to put in this guy. And then I'm going to add it. And then I'm going to shrink it down so that you guys can fit in this little window over here with me. And we'll be ready to take a look at you lovely folks this morning. How's everybody doing this fine day? Right that window. I know that. Oh, maybe it's not. Oh, I see, because it doesn't start playing until then. All right, well, we'll just transition as we go. There we go. And now I just got to fit myself into the screen, and we'll be all right. Hello, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm shrinky. To quit moving stuff around. It was just very strange today. It's like something changed the quality of the image or something like that, and so that it shrank everything down as just odd or made it gigantic. So I've had to I've been for the last hour resetting all the sizes, and I'm like, I gotta get going. This is too much stuff. Hi, Lou. Yes, share the show out now that we're up and running. Now that we're actually there. And hi, chat room. Welcome. Glad you guys could be here. First of all, right out of the gate, what a great time last night at the Jam. Holy smokes. We're all sending hugs to Kate right now. She says, my kid's in surgery and I'm nervy. I remember when my kid got stitches, long story, involves an Airbnb and a glass table. It's not fun. And I still have PTSD from it. Yeah. So, and forgive me if I eat a little bit because I'm a professional streamer now. I'm up and running on Twitch. Excellent. The trick will be whether or not the when Phil comes in, it's going to take me a little bit of finagling to get him online today. But there's a few times your audio is actually loud enough compared to your YouTube stream, audio to KO, Tony Michaels minus. You'll see what I mean. I see. Yeah, well, it's partly I'm using a different piece of software right now, but I'm assuming that maybe these things are built to go into the red, and I always do. Having studied audio engineering with Kimo Williams from Columbia in Chicago, at his own personal studio. I was always taught to keep it never, just below the edge of red. And if it peaks a little bit, you've blown it. And I think in this software, I think they expect gamers to want it in the red or something. So we'll figure out. I will make the other stuff loud by comparison. I'll make some sort of either that or it could be the deep state. I'll do everything I can, but I'm going to go with deep state. It's the deep state trying to keep me quiet. They don't like what I'm saying, so they have destroyed everything. Can we just start with something kind of right out of the gate that I think is a little bit of wonderfulness right away, because it's morning and that's how we do. Watershed moment. Biden administration unveils first 10 drugs subject to Medicare price negotiations. This is something that people have been talking about for a long time, and Biden just did it. Meanwhile, the right wing will tell you that, COVID was an exercise in control. They now know what they could do, which is what they found out, if they found out anything, was that half the fucking population will blow off a mustard gas attack and die in the streets because they're idiots. And the other half will stay indoors until they get the all clear. And then you decide, if you have limited resources, which group is worth saving. Like, if there's this big conspiracy, for fuck's sake, what's the end game? What do you think they're going to do? What are they just prepping? Like, oh, these dumbasses will walk right into a rake. Anyways, supposedly Biden is owned by Big Pharma because COVID happened during Trump, and as did Project Fartsteed and all that stuff. Meanwhile, Biden's over here passing this Medicare price negotiation bill. On Tuesday, it unveiled the first list of 10 prescription drugs that will be subject. This is the first list, by the way. This isn't just them. This isn't the only ones. This is just the first 10. There's all sorts of lawsuits from Big Pharma as well. Big Pharma, I fucking said that. I'm sorry. From different pharmaceutical companies over certain drugs that they believe they should be able to retain the profits for longer, even though they're mass produced at this point. Oftentimes at generic factories, they know this themselves, but they want to pretend like they fucking whittle every pill with a buck knife on a porch. So they're suing the Biden administration. Again, hardly something you would do if they had you, wrapped around their finger, right? Like, why would you have to? Why the fuck would you have to go after Biden? I don't know. Anyways, so the list released by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, comes as major players in the pharmaceutical industry are waging an aggressive legal fight against Medicare price negotiations, which are required under the Inflation Reduction Act. By the way, Biden doesn't like the name the Inflation Reduction Act because I think it put too much weight on the idea that it would solve inflation as opposed to all the other cool shit it does. It's there's a lot of cool shit in that bill. It's the biggest environmental bill the United States has ever passed. It has this in it, but the way they had to get it through was to call it the Inflation Reduction Act so that Republicans would be like, fuck, I can't vote for that. You know how Republicans will often put a poison pill in a piece of legislation so that they can trick you into, like if you must have school lunches, you're also going to have to vote for, depleted uranium needle-sized ammo that's only used on women and children or something like that. And this is something awful they want added to a bill. They will tack it to something that needs to pass. They'll do a need to pass. And they'll add whatever that poison pill is to it. The irony is when Democrats do, the only poison pill aspect that they use against Republicans is a name you can't vote against. Yeah, and by the way, even now, the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world will vote against it. They don't give a rat's ass. But again, why would Big Pharma be fighting the Biden administration if they're getting what they want? So half a dozen pharmaceutical companies and two industry coalitions have filed a total of 8 lawsuits against the Biden administration in recent weeks. Included on the newly released list is Eliquis, a medication used to prevent and treat blood clots. The manufacturer of the drug, which carries a $561 per day list price for a 30-day supply, is Bristol Myers Squibb, one of the companies suing the Biden administration to prevent direct price negotiations. $561 a day to synthesize this drug? I don't think so. Now, I'm sure they want to get their investment back. But if you want to get your investment back through high prices, using supply and demand based on the desire of the consumer, then make phones and fucking cars and televisions or fucking flat screens or tablets or some shit like that. Don't make life-saving drugs, because I got news for you. You'll make a profit on life-saving drugs if you create them. Every company that does will. It's just going to take you a while, especially if it's a niche drug. And the United States government supports most of the underlying funding and most of the underlying initial research anyways around these kind of things. Otherwise, the big pharmaceutical companies, there's no impetus for them to do it on a purely, even just focus. If one disease is killing most Americans, and by solving that, you could save the most lives. With limited resources, any pharmaceutical company is going to chase down those things. If there's a niche market for a very small drug that may or may not fucking work, and it'll take years of human testing and all the other shit to go into it, and hence the Orphan Drug Act, which Jack Klugman helped to pass, bless his heart. And he got Arlen Specter, who was blocking it, to finally become a co-sponsor. There's just no reason, because not only is it, I mean, you could say it's all about profit, but even just in the practical, it's really difficult to come up with a drug or a treatment that will actually solve a major medical problem that nobody else has dipped into, especially if it's novel or it's chronic and been around forever. Because if it's either of those, one, they have no fucking idea if they're just chasing something that might end up being environmental. You're going to create a drug temporarily and it turns out it was asbestos. And you're like, oh shit, now that we take asbestos out of everything, the drug isn't necessary, and we were treating a toxin as a disease or something like that. That's a problem. The other one is, if it's been around for a long time and you create a drug for it, you even start down that path, what you have to recognize is that everybody's tried everything already. And so you're skating on thin ice to begin with. So from a financial standpoint, from a saving of human lives standpoint, it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's why you need, Hal's talking about tobacco, yeah, is an underlying support structure. Yeah, I mean, think about that. It's a great, Hoot Johnson, by the way, in our chat room. It's a great, analogy on this, is that, imagine, if you will, that there was a virulent form of lung cancer or throat cancer that was getting a bunch of Americans. And instead of having something obvious you can look at, like smoking, because with that, people would put their fucking cigarette to their mouth. You could see the fire at the end, the smoke coming out, and the breathing in of it and the exhaling of it, where you go, I think there might be something to this. It's secondary environmental, something in the water, something in the air, something that's even temporary environmentally. And you start treating it as if it's a malady, and you spend millions, if not billions of dollars trying to fix this thing. And ultimately, the cure isn't, we need a pill to counteract this. It's stop that. I look tired. Thanks. Well, I was up late. And also I'm slightly green because of the bad cutout from my green screen. So I'm actually a lot, my skin tone's a lot warmer than it shows up on screen. But thank you for your concern, and you're good. And also, there's a couple of things. Dad died of throat cancer, worked in a pulp and paper mill. Well, yes, and that's one of those things where, could it be related? Absolutely. Was it sure to be related? Who can say? Was it the pulp and paper? Obviously not, because there wasn't a myriad of people during the entire creation of human writing on parchment that always evolved into that, except for they would start coating some paper differently, or some chemicals that they would put on it that was maybe unique to that paper mill, or unique to that brand of paper that would have caused that. And again, what if they came up with a drug which, fought off that form of throat cancer, when the actual, and where people aware of it, like, oh, you have the symptoms of it, you should take this drug, and just you just have to take it over and over and over again for the rest of your fucking life, instead of going, oh, I just need to stop standing next to that. So, and I do not believe, and I apologize for letting slip the big pharma phrase, but I do not believe, honest to God, that quote unquote big pharma wants to keep us all sick. There is a toxic like idea virus that has been around for a long fucking time, and it goes back to the myth of the perfect spark plug. And you can see why I take this personally. That the big three had a spark plug you never have to replace. But they looked at the bottom line and they said, oh my God, we make so much money replacing spark plugs that we have to bury the magic spark plug. And if you'll notice, most people haven't changed the fucking spark plug in forever, because it wasn't that they were hiding that technology. It's just that it was not tested and true enough where they could rely on it and send cars out into the middle of fucking nowhere during a period of time when there were not that many gas stations in the country, much less that many repair shops in the country. So if you're driving across the fucking country, and you're using the new spark plug that may or may not work, again, you're putting your customer base at risk. This is your new thing. You're rolling it out. Will it work? What's the million-mile tire myth. Exactly. This goes right in. It fits right in with what we call, the stroke of the pen fallacy. And this illusion that somehow, in any case, and Marianne Williamson does this probably worse than anybody that isn't a Republican. I know, like, the Republicans like to do big tech and big industry and big, everything's big, which just means, the 19 different fucking companies that are competing with each other to try and create a cure for a disease, or, a new and better tire and all that kind of stuff. Suddenly you mash them into one fucking giant megacorp that you think is price fixing, and not just price fixing, but innovation fixing. A point, by the way, which none of them have a genuine impetus to do. There is no material reason to do that. To go, hey, like one company to another. Hey, slow down, will you? No. Quit it. Stop trying to make better stuff for everybody else. You're making us all look bad. My dad, I think I've mentioned this before. My dad worked in a stovepipe factory for a summer when he was a kid, and it was a union shop, and it was like the classic union shop story where he showed up there, and all you had to do was take these pieces of metal that they had, roll it over on this fitter, turn the thing over, do 4 rivets, that like the little stamp rivet kind of connectors, and then slide it off. And my dad was a fucking machine. By the end of the third day, he was like, like he was and they literally came over and went, whoa, dude, slow the fuck down. You're raising the productivity level for all of us. You're going to get somebody fired. And I'll never forget that. It was a genuine thing that happened to my dad, not a friend of a guy with new. Anyways, your dad was a toaster. And there's been that story. I mean, it's floated in one form or another. People have experienced to some degree the productivity lag part, where don't make us all work harder. We've got a system down, right? Do that 1,000 times a day. Exactly, Donald. And I'm not saying they're bad for wanting to pace himself as well. That said, that illusion follows everything. You're a tin knocker? Nice. My dad, he did that as a summer job. That's very cool. What worker said this? The line steward, whoever his direct supervisor was. But it was like 4 other guys from the line standing there going, hey, Sparks, Simmer the fuck down. Um, Tim Farrell's asking about Japan releasing nuclear waste and the effects. Seems fucked up, but is being underreported. No, it's not fucked up. Everything has a base, background radiation aspect to it. The Fukushima water is treated and is released in such small doses that it spreads out into the rest of the ocean and it will have no effect on the sea life or anything around there. It's no. They're not just dumping green toxic water. It's not a scene out of the Toxic Avenger. China is pushing the story that that's what Japan is doing. They're not. So, and that kind of goes to the thing too, is like what people think, you know, about nuclear waste and what it looks like. First of all, most nuclear waste is solid in pellet form. It's not green. It doesn't glow green. It never has. As a matter of fact, methane glow oftentimes can be green, and people will confuse the two. So, it's using it as propaganda. China's using it as propaganda. So, yes, I have banger head. Huh. Yeah, we're gonna get to that, Andrea. I literally have that up as mine as where is it? Where did it go? There it is. This story. I'll show you in a second. I literally have this up on this screen here. Super fun. Right when and you know, it was right at that moment when Rudy just has too much money. So that said, we are. What's up, Boston Brian? How are you, brother? The sound is weird and crackling. I'm very sorry. Is it ever? It seems fine everywhere else. We'll see. I don't believe the effects of Fukushima. They just don't know enough yet, as usual. By the time we've done its damage, no, they do know. We've been dealing with nuclear waste and nuclear and like the water release from reactors for decades, for half a century. We know how much I mean, it's physics. It's not a guess. Unlike, say, the ramifications of a food filler or something like asbestos, which for the record, you know, folks who were into that, like, this is great. It's not flammable. You'll be just fine. It might be my mic, although people are telling me that it's finally loud enough. But I'll see if I can bring this part down. They were liking the volume though. So it's getting crackles. Oh, that's fucking. You know what it is? It's the weird Elgato thing. I don't know how to kind of this out with um something with the Mac driver. I don't know what it is, but that we had this problem before. Remember, I switched to a totally different mic on my setup at home for this very reason. Bless its fucking heart. But in the meantime, if I may, um, let's see where we are. Let me check out the crackles for sure. Is Zeitgeist true? No. Zeitgeist uses bits of truth to pass a big, giant, idiotic lie. Zeitgeist is gold standard propaganda. Essentially designed to create a motivated group of gold investors a long time ago. That's what Zeitgeist was for. What about my hair? I think it looks okay. It's a little frazzled tonight, but I was headbanging like crazy last night. Big oil making us sick, big pharma making bank treating us. Okay. Elizabeth, I adore you, but no. Let's start with there are the growth in human population on Earth is almost directly tied to the use of fossil fuels and the ability, because of the return on investment of the damage done versus the good made of fossil fuels for a very long time, providing a situation where you could get food and supplies to parts of the world that could not get it in a way that had never existed before that. And so, again, all the fossil fuel companies or the protesters, especially, like, stop fossil fuels tomorrow. If you do that, and let me be abundantly clear, if you do that, if you go, absolutely, we're listening to you guys, You're right. No more. Everything. All the gas stations, force of government, we're shutting them down. Everything stops. If you do that, 1 billion people will be dead in 3 months. Period. After that, in the next 6 months, another 1.5 billion will die because there will be no way to get food or supplies to them. Never mind all innovation and like the rest of functioning modern society. Just your generalized discomfort being in did I talk about Greg Kelly? What about Greg Kelly other than him being miserable? Is there something new with him that I missed? Did he get a Trump mugshot tattoo? So we have to wean ourselves off it. That's what net zero is about. That's the smart way of going. And the oil companies and everybody who bought a car or started trucking food everywhere over the last 100 years. Hal sounding like George Noory now. Did not start doing that like, this would be a great way to destroy the environment. They just thought, this is great. It's a cheap, easily refinable way of creating transportable energy. And it's better than anything we've experienced heretofore. Let's get at it. And they did. And they dove in. The whole world went that direction because it was relatively abundant. And the ramifications of it, except on a pollution level, were mitigated at the engine level. Hence, mufflers and catalytic converters and the like. And then the changing of the content of gasoline, even like, all the mitigatory steps that people took, even adding a cent to gasoline, right? Humanity has taken those steps. Now, we're almost at the point, where a good portion of the world, and certainly first world nations, can shift all commuter vehicles away from gas-powered to electric. We're almost there. And we can start making that transition way faster. But if you cut it all off, the developing world dies. So again, this goes to the same kind of fallacy, the idea that there must be a switch we can flip and that will fix this. And there is not. Does that make sense? I mean, it's a bit of a rant, but yeah. Yeah, the weird crack. I'm sorry about the crackling digital sound. It has to do with people going, be louder. And then I turn the thing up louder and it makes it crackle. So I'll start mitigating it somehow. We scent natural gas. Yeah. Also, we should be scenting carbon dioxide when it's transported via pipelines. Mm-hmm. Oh, thanks, Kelly. Well, mitigatory is one of the most necessary words when you're talking about incremental success in something, where you're again being a true progressive, someone who cares about actual fucking progress. So the regressives bitching about So diversifying our driving fuel choices will benefit everyone. Yes, but also, I personally think that we are headed in a direction of hydrogen hybrid when it comes to cars. And the first step, now obviously trucks can do giant pressurized tanks that are reinforced because they're heavy, and trucks can drive with them, and you can balance it out against the load versus how far it can go and the efficiency of the fuel. You can't do that with a car quite yet. A hydrogen tank on a car is heavy lifting technologically. But if they can find a way to solidify the hydrogen or make it so that they can store it and then through a chemical process release it as needed, and there's been, I showed you guys some of these like cartridges where the idea is that they're going to attach the hydrogen to it, like what's basically a metal tape that runs and cycles through it when you're in the car, and it as it reaches this chemical extraction process, the hydrogen comes out, you turn it into fuel, and the rest of it remains inert in a physical form so that you can't puncture a tank and blow it to smithereens, right? So people are working on that. But at this, we're not there yet. We're on our way, and we have to keep investing in it. And again, this is part of like a society. This is why you need a government. This is why we all want representative taxation, so we can go. One of the big solutions we all need to work on is this right now, right? The Nazis are good at a few things, keeping records being one. Even though Kelly said he has proof of what has a recording of proof of bribery crimes where he will be forced to drop out of 24. I smell BS on. Okay, this I gotta see. Hold on. Is he gonna play it on his show? Um, 2 days ago. Here we go. This is the okay. So let's shall we dip into this? I don't normally do videos early in the day, but why the fuck not? This is Joe Biden has a big problem coming his way. Greg Kelly's sources say a damning Biden tape will be released in the coming weeks. ChatGPT is a hell of a thing, isn't it? Hold on.
The big guy has a big mouth, and it got him into a lot of trouble. But he hasn't seen the half of it yet. There is an audio tape. I am told by people in the know, not necessarily in government, not necessarily out of government.
Not necessarily in government, not necessarily out of government. What do you mean, spies?
Can't say too much.
Why not?
But there is incontrovertible evidence of Joe Biden's corruption that is about to be made public. It's not going to happen tomorrow.
Why not?
Not going to happen before Labor Day.
But sometime between the 5th and the 31st, as soon as they're finished mixing
it will happen sometime between Labor Day and Halloween.
Oh, because what you're looking at, they're going to release it. What do you think? Who would it be? Comer? It'd probably be like Trump's camp. They're not. I mean, if anybody qualifies as not in government but not in government, that would be people around Donald Trump. This is a good window, though. Let's hear what it's about. Let's hear.
This tape will be made public.
Great. Go for it right now.
Not sure by what entity at this point, but once it is heard, Joe Biden will have, he'll have only two options. Number one, he will not be able to remain a candidate for the presidency for re-election. It will be over and
boom. Boom. This tape's going to be amazing.
Done with.
Okay, cool. Is Devin Archer and Gal Luft on it?
The only thing that he might be able to do, potentially, but probably not,
is tell you to go fuck yourself?
Is remain as president.
He will. Yeah.
I'm told this tape is that incriminating, and they're worried about it right now at the White House. They know about it. They know it's out there. There may be more than one, and it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
It makes a lot of sense that we're not hearing it right now, and that you're giving us a vague date of when it will drop. It's amazing that that this tape, while it's probably been around for a very long time, didn't show up until spoofed audio became a thing.
Isn't it? I mean, let's pretend for a moment that this congressman from New York, Goldman is his name, let's pretend for a moment that he's right about whatever it is he heard. Listen.
So to confirm, you're saying that the speakerphone conversations, they don't seem concerning to you because there is no specifics about business, and it just seemed like
it was clear that it was part of the daily conversations that Hunter Biden had with his father. And it was...
Yes, this is Goldman talking about... This is him talking after the Devin Archer thing, in case you didn't know.
Sounded like most of the time, now President Biden didn't even know who the people he was at dinner. He was just asked to say hello. And he would, talk about the way... He described it several times. They asked over and over and over. He described...
Okay, first of all, who thinks... Oh, this is so good. Who thinks that the recording is ultimately going to be, if it's even real, from 2017? I'm dead serious. And does anybody believe that they would wait to release something if it was the shit they say it is? What the fuck?
What the weather was, what's going on your end.
Yeah, but those are codes. He goes, it's going to be a recording of that, but it's also going to have like weather, pizza equals children, weather equals adrenochrome.
The witness was very, very consistent that none of those conversations ever had to do with any business dealings or transactions. They were purely what he called casual conversations.
Again, I also don't know why Devon Archer would lie about it, considering, you know, the benefit he would get from the right in protecting him against the charges he's up against and the time he's about to do. That the Republicans could go, this is all ginned up, and Biden needs to pardon this guy because he's just throwing him in jail to shut him up, that kind of stuff, even though you can still talk from jail. I don't know what the fuck.
All right, let's accept that. Let's accept that for a moment. That's according.
Yeah, I do.
According to Devon Archer and Hunter, and well,
no, it's it's according to Devon Archer specifically. It's like this isn't even a conversation you've heard from Hunter.
The thing is, Joe Biden would make phone calls not only to Devon Archer and Hunter, right? He would make phone.
That's true.
Calls to other people. He would have meetings with other people, and
that's true. I've heard of that. He might be the first vice president who's ever done that. I mean, I think Cheney. How many meetings do you think he had during the beginning of the Iraq War? Just the 4? Okay.
And Joe became a big shot all the way back in the 1970s.
Oh, motherfucker. If this tape is from the 70s.
I don't think he realizes that now.
That they had tape.
Everybody in the world, everybody has a tape recorder in their pocket. Back in the 70s when he became a big shot, that was like, oh boy, you had to go to Radio Shack and get tape, and you had to be like this Radio
Shack
geek to figure that stuff out, or the FBI. Life's changed. And the people he was doing business with, I believe, in Eastern Europe, they
in 2017, motherfucker, it's gonna okay.
Love recording stuff. Every time they go get milk, they actually have a dash cam. Did you know this over in Europe? Like,
yeah, but only when they get milk, because milk is also a code. So, pizza's children, weather is adrenochrome, milk is spinal juice, right? Spinal juice from fresh babies, dew-picked and flown in from Iraq.
Using a dash cam is like everybody, 99% of the people record.
Please tell me this is dash cam footage of Biden going, I know all about Hunter's business as the car goes by.
Record everything they do in a car and everything they do in business. Poroshenko, the then president of Ukraine, Joe is asking for something that Poroshenko thinks is out of line. Can you tell which side of the phone call this is recorded? Who's actually recording the call? Take a guess.
Yesterday, I meet with the General Prosecutor Shokin.
There's evidence everywhere. Look at the fucking lower third.
Yes. And despite of the fact that we didn't have any corruption charges, we don't have any information about he doing something wrong, I especially asked him, it was the day before yesterday.
All right, now who's lying? What day was it? Get your times. I don't believe this anymore. I'm throwing the whole thing out. Baby with the bathwater. Baby with the bathwater.
I especially asked him to resign.
Great.
And this is my second step for keeping my promises.
I agree.
All right, you can tell Joe is on the phone, and that.
Yeah, so fucking what? You don't think the State Department has a recording of that dipshit? Why are you confused? What is weird about this? For fuck's sake.
And that guy is actually in the room. Poroshenko is in the room where the tape recorder is.
Nobody cares. We have a recording of the conversation too. We have a transcript. But did you learn nothing from the Trump impeachment? He's calling from his office. You ever see those pictures of him with a phone up to his fucking head?
Poroshenko was taping it as evidence, as something to hold.
Of what? Joe Biden doing exactly what Obama and the rest of the administration needs him to do?
Hold over Joe Biden as proof. And
proof that he did what he was asked to do? If the dude records everything, then nothing he records in particular has any meaning unless you can show it to have the fucking meaning, right? This motherfucker's the R. Kelly of business conversations. And he's like, picks up everybody's ID and walking by the bookcase to just prove who's 18. It's the recordings where he doesn't walk by the bookcase that are the telling ones. You ever notice how that works? This is not one of those times. Some of you guys don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about.
There have to be more tapes. There just have to.
Yeah, there's got to be. There must be. And there's a lot more nothing
to be. And I am told there is one, and it's going to blow the lid off the Biden administration and probably bring it down forever.
Forever. It's coming. It's not around yet. It's coming. I've heard it's great. It's fabulous.
And if that's the case, it kind of makes sense.
It does kind of make sense. I would say that. You might want to even think of renaming your show Kind of Makes Sense, except it doesn't.
If you knew you were about to be fired or demoted or, kicked out of something, would you really break a sweat at whatever it is you're doing? You know what I mean?
No.
When Joe went to the beach.
Well, I would like to get hired somewhere else, I think. Or I wouldn't want to on the entire team, or in my case, a cast or something.
This was a signal to me.
We went from the morning show to the afternoon show, and it's like, yeah, I know it's a Wednesday. I've got a show tonight, so might as well. But I've got hold on. But before we do this, I'm going to dive into this. It's going to happen. Hold on. I have to be able to bring in Phil. Give me 1 second. Where's my? I have a button that allows me to click on the thing. Okay, enabling that, and then I've got to turn on my little thing, and we'll be there in just 1 second. And Phil's in a different place. Very exciting. Okay, gotta start that and set that up. Hi, Phil. Give me a second. And nope, that won't work. Nope. Well, I guess I'm just gonna have to send this camera. Phil, you'll just have to trust me that you're on camera when the time comes. I'll get you over there in just 1 second. I'm setting up. Phil is going to join us from Ukraine in just a moment. I've got to reach. I got to grab his link, and we will bring him in here. And hopefully, I will be able to hear him. And in this particular situation, let's go to that guest. There we go. And it'll just give me one more moment. 3, 2, 1. There's that. Okay, and close that. Excellent. And now I got to make sure that there's not. Let's see if that's. Oh, I saw something start to form. Looked like it was coming in. It's a little slower today. We transition over here.
Test.
Hey, I can hear you, and there you are. I see you. Excellent.
Test.
Yep.
Hey,
there might be a little lag because of internet, both our directions. You're obviously in a different place. So
I am.
Everybody welcome Ittner Philip, as you know him on Shitter, and of course Philip Ittner, as we know him as family. Live from the artist, the platform
I'm in
formerly
Odessa.
known as Twitter.
I know I'm in
You're
Odessa.
in Odessa. Oh, great. Okay.
I'm in Odessa. Where it's blisteringly hot, and we did get some of last night's attack, but I missed the big bang bang in Kiev. So not that I need to be there for that kind of stuff. Not my first rodeo. I was there on New Year's, for example.
Right.
Yeah. So Odessa, and I love it. It's a great city. It's a beautiful city. The beaches are back open, believe it or not. Still
I
no
believe it.
ships out in the Black Sea. Yeah, yeah, no, I can totally believe it. Especially with this heat wave. I mean, it's no joke. This is a real bad one. This is like 100 degrees here, and it's
Right.
not built for that. It's not built to
Hmm.
be in that kind of temperature.
Right.
So I was out filming today. So whatever stories that I've got the general gist of what has happened. I've read the headlines and I go to my various sources and stuff. But you might
Right.
have to inform me if there's something you distinctly want to talk about, because I was out
Right.
filming today for some blogs that I hope to get out in the world, in the coming couple of weeks. I mean, I
Right.
despise editing, but I've decided that I better do it myself, because
Hmm.
it is fully my vision of what's going on here, and I'm not doing the bang bang, as you know.
Right.
I'll go to the front. I'll go to the front upon occasion, but what I have been doing is talking about people away from the front line, and why this is so important, and who these people are called Ukrainians, and why
Right.
they don't deserve to be, labeled with stupid
Hold.
talking points from Russia.
Right.
So
Hold.
anyhow,
Hold on one
that's why
second.
I'm here in
I have.
Odessa.
Yeah. Hold on one second. I have massive buffering happening, so I'm trying to solve that in the interim, if I may. Let me
Hmm.
see if I can close this down.
Hmm.
I'm going to start shutting down. There we go. I'm going to see if I can start tourniqueting some of um, uh, some of the other bits that might be taking stuff away from us. I don't want that. All right.
I better close all my Pornhub then.
Yeah, exactly. That eats up so much. It really does.
So much, so much.
Yeah, it's rough.
Uh,
Um, yeah. And then
Is it really bad? Because I got a great story from lunch today. That was
well,
weird.
I'm also
Ran into an
hold on.
American,
Yes, I'm also recording
a
this.
MAGA American.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'm also recording this just specifically so that we can so that if it's not great as far as it um
You can clean it up in
it,
post.
yeah, I can clean it up. I can post it after the fact. And
Sure.
hopefully that will
I've
um
got my Ukraine, because this is so Odessa is it's a port city, but it's also, of course, just
right.
naval maritime stuff. This is kind of this is a sailor motif that they kind of all Soviet and
Gotcha.
post-Soviet guys, um, Ukrainian Coast Guard, because they don't have a navy,
Right.
and Russia's navy wear these. So this is my nod to Odessa as a maritime location.
Well, we know I only know I have to say I only know um of uh, of Odessa because of the movie The Odessa Files, which had an element of like where like post World War II Nazi infiltration of Europe, where they tried to reinvigorate
Yeah.
their control over the area, which they had lost. And in
Yeah.
multiple ways, it seems more like an example of or an allegory, I would say, or for what the Russians were doing. That they were kind of like saying, "All right, it's Cold War. We don't want to be dicks directly to the Russians all the time, but it's really like, you know, yeah,
And if I remember that movie correctly, I mean, it also touched on some things about how this is undisputed. Well, I'm sorry, this is disputed territory. That
right,
this was territory the Nazis were trying to take. But shame on you for never seeing, as an actor. Shame on you. Well, as somebody in
uh
the
huh,
film industry, as somebody who's never seen Battleship Potemkin. This is the place of the
oh right, yes,
Eisenstein's Battleship Potemkin. That was filmed here. The famous
okay,
Potemkin steps are here.
right,
Sadly, you can't walk down them because they're in a security area where there's the
mm-hmm,
administration for the port is just at the base of the Potemkin steps, and I am literally 5 minutes walk from there. I'm renting an Airbnb, and I'm behind the the line of control. So I have to go around with a little document, and I go every time I go through the checkpoint. There's a checkpoint leading to the Eisenstein's Potemkin Steps, or the Potemkin Steps, which are so notable in Eisenstein's film. It's such a beautiful city, and also, by the way, I'm also literally like 3 minutes walk to where the statue of Catherine the Great used to stand for well centuries, literally. And the Ukrainians have tore it down, and in place of it is a Ukrainian flag. I mean, Catherine was a German empress who was brought over to Russia and made Russia empire and founded the city of Odessa. And I would have thought the Russians would go more ballistic over the fact that the Ukrainians tore that down now 3 or 4 months ago, maybe more. But they didn't. It's weird. I've got photographs of it, and I'll put it out in social media and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's Odessa. It's an amazing city with a very deep history. And I spent the day with a journalist whose history is complicated, but basically Russian, Ukrainian, American amalgam, Jewish as well. So there's that ethnicity mixed in all with it because of the Soviet Union, of course. And Odessa is a very Jewish city, so there's that legacy. Anyhow, we were walking around town, and I was filming stuff and working with her, and we were talking about a great number of things about Odessa. And one of the things that we did talk about was the fact that prior to the invasion, and then certainly since the beginning of the full-scale war, this was seen as kind of an iffy city. Was it pro-Russian? Was it pro-Ukrainian? What was it? Because it's a port city, it's international, and yes, indeed, it was founded by Catherine the Great. So there's a long-standing, and the general lingua franca here is Russian. So I don't, I get by speaking Russian just fine here, no issues.
And now
and
I
so
lost,
there was
a
sense
I lost your audio on my end. Give me 1 second. I'm doing everything I can
Odessa's
to fix
loyalties.
it here.
And
there you go.
She and I had this discussion, and during the discussion, how much of that did you get or lose or what?
I got it. Yeah.
Anyhow, during the walk in a discussion about how whose loyalties does Odessa hold, she made the point of like, well, it doesn't matter now. I mean, now it's like you're shooting at us, Russia. So that'll ruin a relationship. Getting shot at by your partner tends to soil a relationship. Or soil as well. The undergarments of whoever's being shot at.
That's right.
But once you start chucking missiles at us, we tend to look unfavorably upon that. So Odessa is now firmly in the Ukraine camp.
Right. Give me 1 second. I'm checking on something, and then
I
think we should be back to some level of flow now. I hopefully everybody can hear us. Like I said, I'm recording, so I'll be able to fix this afterwards. So I mean, there's a lot to update on, and I'm hesitant to kind of go to the articles I normally cite, but there have been some breakthroughs on on the front where they have crossed some of the Russian lines, their defensive lines. And the idea is that they have like a 0 line, a 1 line, and then a 2 line. The 2 line's the fallback. The 1 line is the most reinforced, and the 0 line is sort of it's sort of like if you imagine taking a piece of property like a building and then putting sandbags all around it and then just firing from there. The 1 line would be dug trenches that are meant to stay, fortified actual trenches, mines in front of them, the whole shebang. And then the 2 line is no mines behind you, but there's physical barriers, the little dragon's teeth maybe. There's booby traps, I suppose, and a map of what ground not to run over, and then a shallower, less reinforced trench that if you get pushed back to it, you start reinforcing, to hold again or whatever. And that's pretty standard. It seems like
Well,
crossed
I
the
don't think
one for the first time.
I don't think we have. I don't think we've spoken since Robotny fell. Or did we speak about that last time?
It was just happening.
On Saturday.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just happening.
So, I mean,
right.
that's been a big development. That it's fully, unquestionably now in Ukrainian hands. That's a good thing. Next will be Tokmak,
Right.
and they'll get. But look, it's not. Everybody has come to the realization that it's going to really be slow because they don't want to lose soldiers, and it's slow and deliberate, and it's just going to be this, as I've been saying for a long time, but it just is what it is. It's going to be a slow, steady march down the field. Nobody's rushing. But can they still make it to the sea? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we'll see. I hope so.
Yeah.
A lot of that has to do with what the Russians do. Can they make it can they make it to a position where they can compromise the land bridge and they can make any traffic along the land bridge subject to their artillery fire? Yeah, I think that's a definite. I think that'll definitely happen. But again, I think last spoke, it is my opinion that the bridge needs to be.
Sorry, it's your thought that the bridge what?
The land bridge, because of general Russian policy, the land bridge must be severed. It has to be broken. You can't just fire upon it. You have to actually break it, because until you break it and until the Russians realize, oh my God, we might actually lose Crimea, this place that is the cornerstone of so much. We've already lost Ukraine. That's going to be, when that realization really sinks in, that's going to be bad enough. But the idea of physically losing Crimea, that is what Catherine the Great,
the game changer.
the founder of Odessa,
I think
took.
slicing that piece of land in half is the most important thing they can do right now, because that division between Crimea and the north will make
100%.
There's all kinds of political ramifications of it, strategic ramifications of it. It will impress some of the naysayers.
No Russian leader survives. No Russian leader survives losing what Catherine took.
Right. That's right.
None.
And so,
and I don't care if you were Stalin or Khrushchev or Lenin himself. Had any of those leaders lost Crimea, like Putin is about to do potentially, certainly lost Ukraine, none of them, even the greats like Lenin, even the giants on the Russian stage, nobody could sustain losing what Catherine took. It is a quintessential part of their sense of identity and their history and all the rest of it. This will, breaching the land bridge will send them into absolute disarray, because losing Crimea is a big deal.
So the Pskov airfield attacks that happened overnight also are making a lot of fucking noise, because they started with, it was 2 drones initially.
Sure.
The Russians said they shot them down, and then 10 drones followed, and the whole place blew up. And that has, that's a worm turn right there. That is
$20,000 drones. $20,000 drones taking out 4, 20, or 30, if not more, $1 million. You got to understand. So these are Ilyushin IL-76s. Yeah. This would be the equivalent of our C7 heavy mover. And I've been in C7s before.
Yeah.
These are the things that we put tanks on and fly.
That's the one from the Afghanistan withdrawal that a lot of people have seen, right?
That's right. That's the imagery those are what's called a heavy mover. That's the stuff where you put mass amounts of troops in there if you're doing an air assault and you need paratroopers, or indeed you put heavy machinery on there. I mean, they will take tanks. They'll take Abrams and fly them across the Atlantic. This is the equivalent of what they lost in Pskov last night, or the night before, was it? it blurs together. But
It's over the last
four
24
of
hours.
those things, which are 20 to 30 million bucks.
Right.
Right. The 20 to 30 million dollars taken out by a $20,000 drone.
Right.
You know. So and also I mean there was something like 8 cities that the
Right.
Ukrainians sent drones towards.
Yeah.
I mean, mind you, the Russians were shooting 44 cruise missiles at us, and sadly
Yeah.
one got through. But what is interesting to see is that, I mean, this is some of the most best defended airspace in the world right now.
Right.
100%, no doubt about it. The Ukrainians are exceptional at shooting down incoming munitions, whatever it is. 44 out of 44, only one got through, cruise missiles, and you know that's pretty. I mean, they're still shooting them out of the sky, and some debris falls, but they're not obtaining. And I can tell you, I mean, we got shot at here in Odessa. I heard the alarm,
Right.
and I kind of was groggy and was like, well, okay, you know, and went back to bed. I did not hear the explosion. The explosion, when it was shot down over Odessa, was at kind of outskirts of town, so I didn't hear the explosion. But we've gotten so, because of the defenses are so good. Now let's hope they stay that way, and I suspect they will. I don't think they're going to degrade. If anything, they're going to get stronger. But they can't shoot at us, and we can shoot at them. Is the idea,
right?
You know, and the
I've yet to be able to even
the Russians claim to have countermeasures, but they don't.
Right. I've yet to be able to process the idea that that they're allowed to invade your country, but if you fire into theirs at all in retaliation, or they're horrified, and you're the one escalating things.
Yeah, it's a terror attack.
I mean, it's so much like people in a home invasion or fucking BTK or something, where it's like, if you keep quiet, I won't kill you, and then you're like, he's gonna kill us anyways. And the idea is that, you know, you act like, well, if we just play along, we'll live a little longer, maybe. It's so odd. I think it's something like 12 or 13 drone hits. But 2 strategic airlifters, the IL-76, were damaged. The main fuel depot was destroyed. That was the big fire that everybody saw. And it's interesting that while
I thought they got 4 IL-76s. I saw the reports they'd actually hit 4.
Well, yours might 2? Yours might be newer than mine, or vice versa. But
I mean,
yeah,
vice versa, exactly.
Right. But apparently it's a record, so you might be right.
I don't know.
Yeah, you might be right, because it's, according to them,
well,
it's a new record of
today, so
I
thought it was a 4.
Right. Oh yes, I see why you see that. Yes, 4
$20,000 drone.
Yeah, I found it. 4 IL-76 airlifters confirmed as destroyed in Russia's Peskov region.
Yeah.
Officially confirmed.
That's 80 to $120 million shot down with something less than 100,000.
Right.
You can't
just above
that.
And also with a farmer drone.
Yeah, those 76. Yeah, basically. Those 76s are no joke. I mean, that's a huge, huge thing. And in terms of like what they can do with them, you know, they can move around heavy armor. You know, they can move armor. They can move artillery pieces all around the country. It doesn't have to be international. We use ours generally. We use ours internationally because, you know, those are our transatlantic movers. But the Russians, being the enormous country that they are, they can draw reserves from out in the Far East. It might entice the Chinese to start playing around, but if they really needed to, so those are, I mean, obviously they're military aircraft, so they're legitimate targets to begin with. But it's also smart targeting on the Ukrainian side, because that will diminish their capacity to move stuff around their country quickly and in response to whatever the Ukrainians do. So
I find it completely
good hits.
Yeah, I also find it completely ironic that while Russia is busy trying to take a chunk of Ukraine for themselves, they have lost territory to China officially. Because remember, it was like last August, I want to say, it was like a year ago, where Xi Jinping had his meeting with Vladimir Putin, and they came across all buddy, and then as soon as Xi Jinping went back to China, they started listing all of the
Yes.
former territories, the Russo-Sino War,
Yeah.
territories as under their Chinese name. Well, that's now official. This week they released the official maps of it, and the Solovyev and I think somebody like one of the others flipped out, and we haven't seen Simonyan in a while. Maybe it's just because I'm not paying as much attention.
No,
we got so much stuff going, but she's been kind of on a hiatus.
Not that I missed her.
Yeah, exactly. But the Chinese state-owned website Cartographic Service of Standard Maps designated the Bolshoi Ussuriski Island as entirely Chinese territory. That's a big fucking deal. Like they're doing the same shit to Russia that they're doing to the Philippines and Vietnam in the South China Sea. They're just like, ours now, fuck off. We don't agree to any borders and that kind of stuff. And on a to some degree, like if you're Vladimir Putin,
bro.
Yeah. If you're Putin, I mean, I don't know how you're not throwing shit at this point. Yeah, but they have an agreement to split this island.
He's kind of got bigger. He's kind of got big.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah,
he's
got bigger fish to fry.
I thought it was a dick move when they did it.
Again, I can't reiterate it enough.
Yeah. I thought it was a dick move when he did it initially, but now they've made it official. And it's on their official maps online and that are printed. So if you buy a map right now in China, there are big chunks of Russia that they have effectively just said, that's ours now. And the deal he made with Prigozhin, we've talked a lot about whether or not there was a real deal made, whether Prigozhin's even fucking dead, whether the idea was, part of the deal was you could hang around for a while and then we'll pretend to blow you out of the sky and then you could retire with a giant golden parachute, just leave me the fuck out of it. And, the potential for that. Absolutely possibility, whatever. But can you imagine if part of the deal of like, okay, we'll back you for a while and we'll do this, but we want cheap oil and we get this land back. Can you imagine if when all this fucking stuff settles, it turns out that Putin tacitly agreed with this. That said, you know what, we don't need that territory anyways. It's fucking permafrost most of the year anyways. It was always a part of Mongolia. We don't even have any fucking people there anymore. Yeah, just call it whatever the fuck you want. It's yours now. And then, like, that map isn't being redrawn by anybody else because they haven't made that agreement in writing. He just gave it up and said, fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, he is part of the Moscow-Petersburg power structure within Russia. So, when it comes to Russia, they're far east. They don't really give a shit about it.
Right.
I mean, they do and they don't. It's still, Mother Russia, and it's inside our borders. So how dare you? And they may jump up and down and scream about it for a bit. But the Eastern territories there's not a lot of benefit to them for
it's
Russia.
The same
As
thing.
A matter of
same
fact,
thing with China, though. Honestly, it's just the value of that land is 1-to-1. It's like I've said, Afghanistan is not the graveyard of empires. It's just every empire who thought this would be a great way to cross the desert into some useful shit just gave up on it eventually and said, "Fuck this, we'll go around," because there's nothing. There's nothing there, especially pre-uranium. Nobody gave a shit. There's nothing to be had. That's why there's 12 tribes there, because they all just stay near the borders where they can leech off the countries around them. That's what they've effectively been. They can, the Bell Maps benefited what are effectively the Afghanis because they could just run on the other side of them, and basically be raiding parties like a bunch of fucking Comanche.
Why climb up to the top of the world when it's occupied by a bunch of, I'm sorry, but a bunch of kind of hillbillies up in the holler who will shoot at anybody who comes in there and tries to exert power. They're
it's like Appalachians
they're mountain people. They're mountain people. Look, you could argue the Scots are the same way. There's a certain thing about mountain people who go up into the mountains to like, fuck you, leave me alone.
And get high ground.
Yeah, I'm going to go up to the high ground. I'm going to make it real difficult for you to chase after me.
Mm-hmm.
And no better example of that than Afghanistan, because it really is the highest
Right.
populated spot on the planet. So they can say fuck you, and to the Romans, to the Indians, to
Yeah.
the British and the Soviets. They can always just be like
The
well, not
Pakistanis.
the Romans, but the Greeks, the Macedonis, the Pakistanis, sure.
Yep.
Although that's really a complicated relationship, but we're getting off topic here. You're absolutely right. Fuck it, I'm not going to climb that mountain to fight these crazy people who will never.
What?
Yeah, to get, and if that's the cost of getting to the other side of the mountain range, is that I'm constantly having my supply chain sniped at, then screw it, I'll go around. And
exactly.
That's, if there is a benefit to that part of like Mongolia and Central Asia, and it's that.
Right.
But there's
maintaining a train line.
It.
The only benefit,
Oh, God.
the only benefit I can see for the eastern part of Russia, essentially, like especially the mid-eastern part of it, the edge part towards Mongolia might be nice part of the year, but that like the general area of like where Siberia is on.
You go north of Baikal. Hell. You go north of Baikal, and it's fucked. It's fucked.
Yep.
You literally, people that we're kind of okay, but because this is nothing compared to the importance of Ukraine. Let's not first and foremost forget about that. The far eastern holdings of the Russian Empire. Fuck it. Ukraine, Crimea, really important. So let's not forget about that. But also discussing this stretch of like uninhabitable land is that I had a buddy of mine at CBS who sadly passed away this last year. A lovely guy. He was a CBS radio correspondent by the name of Bill Gasparini. And Bill was a lovely guy, but he was a little eccentric. And he loved to go out into the middle of fucking Siberia and hang out with the native peoples out there, the who have more in common with the Inuit than they have with the European Russians.
Right.
They're reindeer herders and they live in yurts and all, and their culture, because the Bering Sea, blah 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 blah. This is ancient history. But one of the things that shocked me about some of the footage that Bill brought back to the CBS bureau when I worked with him in the 90s was footage of how reindeer herders take care of their herd during certain months, actually a huge chunk of the year, is that they have to bring them into yurts that are smokehouses, because the smoke will get the mosquitoes away. Because whether not just mosquitoes, but other like blood-sucking flies and stuff like that, because it's all this, when the permafrost gets to a certain time of year, it just goes to ugly marshlands, and all the larvae come out, and the insects are everywhere. And these things will literally suck your blood and kill you.
Yeah.
You will die.
Yeah.
You will die if you walk around exposed in parts of Siberia certain chunks of the year, because the fucking bugs will suck you dead.
Yeah,
that's scary, man. That's fucking. Obviously, God is saying this is not for you.
Yeah. Well, and I was saying the only benefit, like back then, like back when humans required on just like either agricultural land, logging, or a water source as a primary reason to secure a piece of land. Then maybe later you had something like gold or iron, right? That you could get out of the ground. But
you want to get something from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
Right. Yeah. But for the most part, in our modern day and age, there might be rare earth minerals, which are not rare at all, by the way. They're pretty common. They're very hard to produce and toxic. That one of the areas you do it in is where almost nothing lives. That's one of the best places to produce that kind of shit, because you're not fucking up the groundwater, because there is none. You're not fucking up the air and stuff around there, because there's so many other like volcanic particulates and all kinds of other shit. The wind just blows so much it dissipates. Nothing lasts. And even you could create as much industrial smoke as is possible, and you still wouldn't make a dent in the environment around you, because it's just too far from everything. And so part of this land might in the future be good for getting rare earth minerals out of it, but still the process of doing it is a multi-decade process that's ugly and dangerous and gross and requires a lot of people who are willing to put their lives on the line for very little pay, especially when it comes to Russia and China. And it just doesn't exist in the modern world anymore. And we'd rather innovate our way around it. And it kind of goes to that point of like, find another route to the Atlantic. The same thing is true, of these kind of environments. Like, yes, we could get rare earth minerals out of this shitty ground that's dangerous and cold, but we could probably get them somewhere else. So fuck it, and that might be what this minor pissing contest between Xi and Putin is over this land that nobody fucking wants. But ultimately, it doesn't quite matter. Like this is more
the
geopolitical.
land itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the land itself. I mean, having access to the Pacific and the Atlantic for Russia is no small thing. But it's not nearly as. I mean, the point has been made that by people who really dive into the kind of nuts and bolts of a lot of this, but it's like America is a country that both has the Pacific and the Atlantic, and because of that we can exert power on the shipping lanes, which is really where international power is determined. It's not on land; it's at sea. That's where power is. That's where or it has been. It has been. Now, post COVID and a lot of things. I mean, that the international shipping lanes and all that there's a lot of talk that might be significantly changing. But because Russia has Vladivostok, but it also has St. Petersburg, the problem is it's so inhospitable that even a rail line is almost impossible to maintain. Certainly a rail line that's significant enough to trade goods. Now, something we never talked about, Hal, you and I don't think so, but is one of my really, it's one of the things I keep a very close eye on with Russia, and that is the Northeast Passage. The Northeast Passage is what is called, because everything is seen through we have talked about this, but anyhow, regardless, I'll reiterate that it's the Northeast Passage because everything is seen from a European perspective. Yeah, history being Eurocentric, is that the Northeast Passage is that stretch of Arctic that goes over the north side of Russia. If that indeed does melt because of climate change, they've got a trade route through the Arctic, the Russians do, that is going to make Suez, there's no reason to have Suez. There's no reason to even have Panama. If you can get stuff from Taiwan to Finland over the top of Russia, with Russia taking a bit of payment for every nautical mile that you traverse, that's going to be huge for them. But we'll see how that goes. But that whole dynamic of Russia being this enormous Pacific and Atlantic power is a topic really fascinating to me, but not really relevant to what's happening here in Ukraine, because as much as China nipping away at Russia's Far East, they really don't need a lot of that territory, a huge chunk of that territory. Whereas Ukraine and Crimea not only is logistically and geopolitically very much essential for them, it's also psychologically and historically and culturally. I mean, Odessa is this amazing cultural spot as well, which maybe we should talk about at some point. But it's intrinsic to their sense of self. This territory, not what China is nibbling away at, but Ukraine, in seeking its own self-determination, in their eyes, is robbing them of this great legacy of Catherine the Great and Russian Empire. Well, tough titties. It's you're going to lose it. You've already lost Ukraine, and you're probably going to lose Crimea, and they're going to lose the damn minds about it. So, it never stops to be amazing.
It's the AMOC, I don't know if you ever heard of like the Atlantic current, the AMOC. There's been a lot of talk lately that it might have reached a tipping point, and there's this cold zone that if it it warms up a certain amount, the circulation will basically effectively stop. Now, it's stopped and restarted multiple times over the millennia, and it's not that weird a thing. But most people assume that it stops and the oceans just start boiling. But the reality is if the heated water doesn't circulate because it's not pulled towards the cold water up there, then it all drops off rather quickly, and the top gets very cold very fast. There becomes effectively an Arctic ring can form really quickly because of the lack of warm water circulating up there to create ice, because there's a certain point where it gets so cold it doesn't create any more ice. But there's a magic window of how cold it can be where there's ice all the fucking time. And that it looks like if anything like that happens, that area that you're talking about, that Russia would have that shipping lane, would be the most frozen place on the planet. Ironically,
potentially, there's also the argument that